like Bill and Lou live a lifestyle that other agricultural animals could dream of, you know, that agricultural activists would fight for if we're participating in, you know, meat consumption. And yet, here we are debating whether or not these two elite animals should be slaughtered when there are millions that live in terrible conditions every single day. And it just feels a little bit unfair that, like, all of this attention should go to them. And that's...
Let me just mention, because there's data around from the USDA data, but from the Humane Society website about slaughter. She said millions. Just to give you the exact figure, you'll notice on page 2, it's between 9 and 10 billion. I'm not misplacing a decimal there. These animals are in concentrated animal feeding operations for the most part. And that is what's consumed in our own dining hall in terms of about 95% of what's available there. So that's just data, that's not weighing in on anything.
Is that just in the U.S. in 1 year?
That's just in the United States, not in the world, and only in 1 year. 9 billion, that's 9 zeros. But 8 billion of them are chickens, 1 billion of them are others, and it's all in the data sheet that's coming around.
What I've seen a lot of thus far in the discussion is a lot of emotional content, and that bothers me. I believe there needs to be a more intellectual, philosophical, and logical debate that hasn't been presented. We need to take into account the views of others. So forums like this are very important, especially when discussing the life of something that is obviously valuable for many reasons. To some, maybe economic. There's emotional value. There's just intrinsic value and inherent value in these non-human animals that I assume has been represented by the farm crew, especially in their discussion of what to do with them at the time that they discussed it.
So when Bill and Lou were brought here a long time ago, every student along the way has learned something about them as their life has progressed. The first students learned how to raise them. The second students learned how to train them to draft animals, and now they're, it's the end of their life cycle and students are learning about that too. It's also the sustainable thing to do, considering that just feeding them for the rest of their life is somewhat of a waste, and we would lose out on the meat that's been growing for the last however many years. And lastly, it's the humane thing to do. Lou's injured. It's about time. So humane, environmental, and sustainable. That's what Green Mountain's all about, isn't it?
Based on what I've heard from people on the farm and people around campus, doctors have checked it out and said that it's time.
I don't think that it's an unethical act that the farm is slaughtering Bill and Lou to provide meat for the school and other people who are interested.
It's really anthropocentric to assume that since an animal doesn't have any use for us anymore, that they have no use in the world at all. So if there is a sanctuary offering to take Bill and Lou, the Vine Sanctuary is, I think that it would be completely realistic to have them go to the sanctuary, where they can live out the rest of their days happily as oxen.
Well, I'm a vegetarian and involved in the local food movement, and it's our farm, and people are telling us we can get our meat from other places, or telling us to not eat meat in general, and neither of those things are practical. And it's our farm, and it's the best decision possible. It's a multifaceted issue, so I couldn't even begin to go into it. But people put environmental quotation marks when talking about it because they don't actually know what's going on. But it is the most sustainable option, and it is an emotional issue for us, which people are just kind of pretending it isn't. And overall, it's our farm, it's our community. They're members of our community, and it's our decision, and this is the best possible one.
I actually believe that we're actually respecting them by letting them live on in another way, and that we're going to eat them and respect them in that way.
So Bill and Lou have been a part of our community for a long time. They've been loved, we cherish them, and now that the situation with their health has come to this point, I think that the most important thing to do is remain sustainable with them. And I'm very happy that our community is sticking together with this and deciding to follow through with our decision. I think it makes the most sense, and it's the best way that we can respect what they've done for us in our community.
So Bill and Lou, I think we've, the farm crew, the farm staff, have known for over the years that, you know, we were going to need to transition to another team at some point. Those of you who are on the farm crew have seen there have been other animals that are brought in to be trained at various times, and that's been part of the conversation. And, you know, Bill and Lou have had a couple of struggles here the last couple of years that when you start to get to be that size and that age, and also when you're working hard as they are, things start to build up and accumulate. And so I think most of you know that by this point you've seen it somewhere that Lou had an injury this summer that really did begin to hobble him a bit, and the idea is clearly not to put the animals under any duress if they're injured. So the conversation started with the crew that was here over the summer, as well as Kenneth, Bailey, myself, Ben, you know, alerting the administration that, you know, we were probably pushing the time frame here that we were going to have to make a decision at some point as to what to do with Bill and Lou. So we consciously decided, as I've sort of jokingly said to a couple of the journalists who called, you know, there's Under the Cover of Darkness, and in the academic world it's called Under the Cover of Summer. You do things. And we consciously decided not to do that because we thought it was better to make sure that this was a transparent act and decision, and the farm crew coming back was able to have some feedback here.